All right, we are live.
Woohoo! We are live. Hello, hello. So, we have something very exciting to bring you guys today on the TNL show. So, if you are tuning in, say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And we're excited.
Bing bong.
My phone's ringing.
She would have to do burpees if she was at a conference.
Oh, no, I don't want to do burpees. I'll turn that off. Shh, didn't happen. What are you talking about? So we're super excited to bring you guys something today because I feel like people are kind of like afraid to talk about this, and maybe it's like the elephant in the room, and people don't want to talk about it. So before we introduce you guys to the topic of today, Mr. O'Brien, my co-host, not my guest. Do you want to say hi real quick?
What is up, Trap Nation? The nation is growing. I don't know, what are we almost closing on 1,000 people now?
Almost at 1,000. Invite your friends. This is a free group, guys. It's a way for you to invite people in to take a look at what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. If you find value, and today you're going to get insane value because this show has the potential to literally save your life and somebody that you love. So, but it's only with awareness. So if somebody doesn't know, they can't, we can't help them.
Yeah, you don't know, you don't know. So without further ado, today we're going to talk about the C word. Guys, what's the C word?
It's not COVID.
It's not COVID. Oh, yeah, they're right. I forgot about that one. It's gone.
No.
Guys, we're going to talk about cancer today. And the reason is people don't talk about it. And then when people do talk about it, people freak out. And we don't want you to freak out. We want you to create awareness so we can help you with prevention. And how this all started was Mr. O'Brien walks in the door and I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened to your face? What's wrong with your face? It's like all red and like all spotted. And I'm like, are you okay? And
Can
he's
you
like,
see?
can you
Being
see?
fully transparent.
Put it two in the chat if you can
Going
see
on
his
here.
like mess. Gosh, you look like
Yeah, like I have mange without
mange.
the hair loss.
You've been attacked by something, not me. I've been good. So no, we really wanted to talk to you guys about this because prevention is important. But how do you get there? Where do you start? Like if you go on Google, you're just going to get overwhelmed. So why don't we just break that down for you today, and we'll talk about the C word, and we'll just get it out and help people. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about prevention first. And because I think people just don't really know where to go and how to start. They think, I'd rather just shut my eyes and just not talk about it. So, what we're going to do is the first question, Matt. I think a lot of people just are wondering, like, what precautions can I take in order to prevent cancer, in order to, know really what's going on with my body? So, are there any certain questions or, certain things that maybe we should ask our doctor, or how do you open up that conversation and like tell everyone what happened to your face
Yeah.
as far as prevention? And let's just start there.
Yeah. So why we titled this "Prevention is Power," whether it's cancer or heart disease or type 2 diabetes or even Alzheimer's, those are the big four elephants in the room that cause the most mortality in the United States and the world for that matter. But prevention, the earlier you detect and identify an issue, the better the outcomes. So with cancer, and I'll get to my face, it's all about screening, the process of screening and testing. And the earlier you screen and test and identify a potential issue, it's like everybody, I assume, has an automobile. And if you do your regular maintenance and change your oil, when that engine light goes off, it's identifying a problem early before you have an epic fail and you have to replace the entire engine. And cancer and heart disease, particularly, are both like that. So, being a fair-skinned Irish descent male in the state of Florida, the Sunshine State, literally, I started getting screening for skin cancer in my 30s. And my first trip to the dermatologist, which was in the early 2000s, they basically screening, if you've never done it and you live in Florida, you must do it. And we're going to actually commit to doing that before we're done. But I went in and they do a full body screen with a magnifying glass under bright lights. and they're basically looking for any kind of abnormal looking, and they know what they're looking for, moles or little margins around things and marks on your body. And what I can tell you, and most of you that live in Florida probably know somebody that went through the result if you don't get screened early. But they found on me, my first screening, they did a biopsy, 3 different biopsies, and one of them came back positive for basal cell carcinoma, which of the skin cancers is definitely the one that you would prefer to have. It's the least, the slowest spreading and the easiest to fix. So I went through an ablation procedure where they eliminated all the cancerous cells. And as part of that, one of the things they can do is give you a topical cream that you put on your face, and essentially it goes after the precancerous cells, and those specifically will basically get really irritated and die, and before they have the chance to mutate into cancer cells. So that was my first screening. And then in my third screening, they found another issue that wasn't there before, and it was a squamous cell carcinoma, which is a little bit more problematic. And melanoma is the one you really don't want to have. And so I had that one also removed after the biopsy. So catching these things early, it's a difference between having a little mark on my chest where they took it off, which I can't even find anymore, or losing my whole chest, or waiting long enough and then, I could lose my life because it can proliferate and metastasize to other areas. So this is my third edition of that. I call it cancer cream, but really it's a preventative method of putting a cream, and now it's evolved to 2 different creams, and you mix them together. And instead of doing it for 2 weeks, you only have to do it for 4 to 5 days, twice a day. And it feels like your face is sunburnt really bad. And, it looks like this, but all those marks are precancerous cells getting nuked by this Floricell cream.
Wow.
So that explains what's happening.
So really quick, I want to ask our viewers, if you've done this before and you had a positive, whether it's the 3, I'll have you go back and say it because I don't know how to say it all. The 3
types of cancer.
Types of cancers.
Cancer.
So say positive and then the type of cancer that you had. I'm curious because it's probably going to be a lot more than or you even expected. So positive and then the type of cancer next to it.
And if you don't feel comfortable sharing the type,
or just say positive.
That's personal.
Yeah.
But, and I never really consider myself a cancer survivor, but technically I am. But it was so trivial because we identified it early. And that's the name of the game when it comes to cancer and heart disease, which we'll talk about in more detail. In prevention, that's what we just want to really emphasize. You have to be proactive when it comes to these screening processes. Most doctors aren't, they might mention it. And certainly when you hit 50, they're going to mention a colonoscopy. I know your gynecologist is going to mention getting a mammogram. That's a screening for breast cancer. Colonoscopy screening for colon cancer. But they have blood tests now that can identify tumor markers and certain types of proteins that are specific to cancer cells. And you can get screened pretty thoroughly. And then if you do have any positives that show up, then you can get what's called a PET CT scan, where they literally scan your whole entire body looking for any abnormal growths. And, doing that and catching it when it's just a little itty bitty thing, it makes it fairly routine. What you don't want is that metastasis, when it spreads to other areas of your body, and then that becomes those really sad stories. Hollie and I lost a really good friend and client to glioblastoma, which is a really deadly form of brain cancer. And, it's just catching things as early as possible. So that's why prevention and screening is so important, specific to cancer. And we'll talk about some of the other ones too.
Well, and I love that, Matt, that I love that, like, instantly when I was like, what is going on? You were like, oh, we should talk about this. And that's really what this group is for. So that's why we're saying invite people in. That's what this group is here for, is because we want to help educate you and open up the questions that maybe you're not asking and give you some answers so you're not overwhelmed. So my other question is, so people don't get overwhelmed, and really just how they start. Like, so let's say, I don't know, you're looking at all the things and you're like, okay, I know what to do. I know what to wear sunscreen. I know to, not do this, not do that. But like, does it really matter about the food I put in my mouth? Like, some people think, well, if I wear sunscreen, I'm fine. But my question is, does it matter what we put in our bodies? How can we prevent certain things by what we put in our body?
Great question. And this is one of the big things that we teach in our Road to Health coaching program is, and simplifying nutrition made simple is controlling for insulin and inflammation. And those are really two things when the choices that we make through lifestyle and the foods and drinks that we shove down our gullet have a profound influence on the environment that we're creating within. So cancer particularly lives in a glucose flame, is what the cancer experts say. So cancer cells really thrive in a high blood sugar environment. And you may be familiar with high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, but your average insulin score and your average blood sugar and foods that cause inflammation, which we also teach you what those are, those can all create basically an ideal environment for whatever genetic potential you have. And we call that genetics versus epigenetics. So epigenetics is the choices that we make in the environment that we live in, and your genetics are what your parents gave you. We have control over the epigenetics. And like your question, whatever we put in our mouths, and whether that's toxic, as well as the toxic environment we potentially live in, as well as the toxic friendships and relationships that we can have that cause stress, which also cause inflammation in the body. Those are all critical in understanding what environment for cancer and heart disease am I creating inside by the lifestyle choices I'm making. And if you don't make the right choices, you're just putting gas on the flame, and it's only a matter of time that maybe instead of getting cancer when you're 80 or 85, you get it at 60 or 65, or worse in your 50s if you're really not paying attention. And when we jump into heart disease, I'll tell you a pretty profound story that might bring it closer to home of why you need to get screened early on the other cardiovascular, the other C word disease.
So really quick, for those that are just hopping on and listening, going, what are they talking about here? We are talking about the C word and a couple other things. And what I just heard you say is a high sugar environment and high inflammatory environment for our body is bad. Low sugar, low inflammation, good.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just sugar, like everybody knows table sugar and fruit juices, even natural fruit juices that are high in fructose and natural sugars, but it's also the high converting to sugar starches, what we call high glycemic white carbs. We used to call them white carbs, and vegetables would be the fibrous carbs. But your pastas, your flours, your cakes, cookies, candies, all the fun foods, I call it. If you're eating a lot of those type of calories, and statistically, according to the FDA that tracks what we purchase, 65% of the calories of Americans today are coming from processed and packaged foods, which by nature are 60 to 80% calories from these foods that we're talking about that create that high flame environment for cancer and heart disease and diabetes and even Alzheimer's, the other one. So food choices and lifestyle choices are hugely important. And if you're just putting it off, like a lot of people tend to do, it's not a priority because it's not staring me in the face like this, my face. I want to literally shake you because it's that important. I lost a friend, 36 years old, with two young children because he didn't get screened and didn't take it serious long enough. So, forgive me for being blunt and direct, but you got to take your health seriously and be proactive, certainly with screening to identify things early. And that's the wake-up call that we hope to be conveying today.
Prevention, prevention, prevention. And I love your passion about this. I love that you are passionate about this because this is why we created this group. This group is for you to understand that this is really important. And we want to create an environment where you can get that just information that you need. And we also take it a step further. That's why we do our YOLO program. That's why we have our other programs, is to really dive in deep in these conversations and teach you not just, to look good. We actually want to help you live a healthier, longer life. So I appreciate that, Matt. I appreciate your passion. And, right now we're just giving you guys some tips and tricks. If you want to dive deeper in that, that's what our YOLO program is for. And that's why we're pouring our heart and soul into that, because you will change your life. And we'll be hearing some stories about that as we go. So what you're saying now is make sure that you have early prevention. You want to talk about it. You want to ask your doctor. There's some precautions that Matt talked about. If you missed that part, go back and watch the beginning. We talked about a low inflammation, lower sugar. And guys, what we do in our YOLO program, like I talked about earlier, and what we're doing here in Triumph Nation is teaching you, not to just get rid of all the things, don't just get rid of all the plastic and then, don't eat this and only drink out of glass. And some people go to the extreme and then some people just shut their eyes. Right. So we want to help you have that happy medium. And that's why we're here. So that actually leads to my next question is, let's say you've had a scare. Okay. The C word, you've had a scare. And then you went and Googled it and you literally went off the deep end and you bought a $5,000 water filtration system. You're only drinking out of glass and you're only having, organic vegetables. And then you got rid of all your clothes that weren't organic. And now you're not wearing makeup and you've literally gone insane. Now you're depressed. You don't know what to do. You've completely freaked out. Now you have no friends because you went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I say that in a humorous way because sometimes you freak out. So how do we not freak out? Like, how do we go, where do I start? Because you want to bite things off one bite at a time. Otherwise, you're going to choke on the whole darn cookie. So take a little bite. So how do you help us take little bites of the cookie?
Yeah. And this is what a beautiful setup for what I always like to think of coaching as a process is really, if you think of the word coach, it is a vehicle. If you think of coach class, coach, stage coaches, motor coaches, train coach, those are all, the word coach is a vehicle that takes you from where you are to where you were trying to go, a destination. And coaching that we do is very much like that. And part of the process that we take people on a road to health journey is what I call the roadmap to success. And it's breaking it down into systematic steps. And I'm just going to bring up on the screen just one of the ideas of how we can screen for different things. And these are just, now I'm not going to go through all these blood tests, but I highlighted for you some of the really important ones. And in specific, I just want to tee up two conditions. We talked about cancer already and some of the screening for that. But cardiovascular, the number one killer of Americans is cardiovascular disease, which includes heart disease, stroke, and it also correlates with dementia as well. But and cancer is number two. And I just realized we have a horrible spelling on our cardiovascular risk profile.
Oh, I can't spell it all, so I didn't even notice.
Yeah, it's like cardio.
That's okay. Someone will correct us.
Totally wrong. But anyway, what I highlighted there, if you go to your typical doctor, and Peter Attia, who is one of the most well-respected practicing physicians in the country, like he calls it medicine 2.0 versus medicine 3.0. A lot of physicians, and it's evolving and changing, are still in 2.0, and they're going to tell you get your total cholesterol, your LDL, your HDL, and your triglycerides. The first four in that cardiovascular risk profile. That is going to tell you really nothing. And as far as long-term risk, and I can tell you, having done thousands of consultations of people that are clearly dealing with health issues, that they will tell me, oh, my doctor said I'm fine. My blood work is great.
Mm,
because they're not looking at the whole picture. Go
mm.
further down that list, the bottom two, ApoB and LP little a, those are the ones that you want to get and teach your doctor to, don't teach your doctor, demand and insist, even if you have to pay out of pocket their $20 tests. Don't let them convince you otherwise. Like, oh, it's too expensive, it's useless, pointless. Don't let your doctor determine your screening and your health. But those two, along with fasting insulin, which also reveals metabolic dysfunction under carbohydrate intolerance or tolerance, would give you a pretty point blank determination if you have some significant risk that you need to deal with. So I'm going to take it off the screen, but telling you a story like Peter Attia, he's the author about Live, and he has a practice in Austin, Texas, and he's got a podcast and all the things. But he shared his story, and I was up last night. I don't know if it was because my face was on fire, but couldn't sleep at 3:30, so I got up and read another chapter out of his book, and it was just happened to be his story, how even though he was swimming the Catalina Channel, which is 14 hours and some 21 miles of swimming that he could do, and he could bike and do all these things, that doesn't mean anything. So he got screening for whatever reason in his mid 30s, and it identified he already had a calcium streak that they in screening testing, that had he not known that,
Wow.
his lifestyle probably wouldn't have changed. And because of that, the good news, or as Hollie likes to say, good news was that it was a wake-up call. And as a practicing physician that had a child, shortly thereafter, which also is a wake-up call, he changed his lifestyle dramatically, and he went down this massive rabbit hole of researching cardiovascular disease and came up with those tests. But he changed his lifestyle, and now he's 50 and has had repeated tests, and that same plaque has not changed because he made those lifestyle changes to include what activities he was doing, to include what he ate and drank. And he also talks about the importance of sleep, which we'll be dealing with as well. But screening, and the good news is that you can do something about it. You got to identify it early. And he basically stopped that progression of heart disease in its tracks by knowing that, oh shit, I need to make some changes or things are not going to be good. So,
Holy cow. Like, okay, guys, if you're blown away by this, just say holy cow. Or oh my goodness. Are you listening? Like, if you're tuning into this right now and you're curious what we're talking about, this is so important. Go back, as Matt said, I'm going to be passionate about this. Go back and listen to the beginning, because this right here could very well save your life and save someone else's. So invite someone else to watch this. This is in our private group. This was really powerful. So if you got value from this, put value in the chat. That's a really powerful story, Matt. So he was able to stop it there. How many guys here want to stop? They don't even know. Go get screened. Do you want to, if you had a chance to stop something like this, would you do it? That's what we're doing for you here. That's why we have this free group. We're doing this so you get those valuable nuggets. You don't have to take all the things. We're flexitarians. Matt and I are not extremists, but one step in the right direction is a step in the right direction. And we're also here so you keep going forward, because I'm telling you, if you try to do this alone, you will go backwards. Why? Not because you're a failure, not because you're not good enough, not because you can't do it. You can't do it alone. You're not meant to do it alone. We're not meant to do life alone. You'll hear me say that over and over. We're here for you. And that's why we're doing this. That was valuable.
Yeah. And that's what part of what coaching is taking you by the hand and leading you down the path and guiding you how to work with your doctor. And then, that also translates into the mindset piece and empowering you to know you have control, and just understanding that you have a lot of influence over your health and your circumstances, and early knowledge of any situations, what we call prevention. That's very powerful, assuming you act on that information. And if you do need to make some changes, the good news is with heart disease, like that, you can stop in its tracks or reverse it. Alzheimer's now they found with lifestyle modifications. Researcher Dale Bredesen is kind of the authority on Alzheimer's. He's proven just with lifestyle modifications, you could reverse some of the conditions of Alzheimer's. So just trying to make the beat the drum of how important lifestyle decisions are on the outcomes that will determine, our functional health span, our happiness. This group is all about health and happiness, and it's really hard to be happy if you're dealing with a significant health issue. And I'm sure everybody's known. I do want to share one crazy story because we live in Florida. Us personally, you may be watching from somewhere else, but one of the stories I want to share was one of my clients' husband works for one of the shipping companies, and he's a delivery driver all day, every day. And what side of the car do we drive on? The left side.
Oh.
And the sunlight coming in on the left side of his vehicle, 8 to 9 to 10 hours a day. He just lost 30% of his ear and big chunks out of his face, which is better than losing your life. But, that just made me aware that, wow, even driving I always thought there's like UV protection in the glass, but evidently not, or not enough. And it's just a wake up call that, the more time you spend exposed to sun, relevant to skin cancer, just really need to get that screening. I do semi-annual now, twice a year. I go see a dermatologist. My next one's coming up in June. And like Hollie said, we're trying to be transparent. That's why I'm not wearing any makeup. Hollie's a makeup artist. She could have
you need to put makeup on. Like, no, we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, I said, no, this is a perfect time to talk about the C word and why my face looks like this, like hamburger. Or it looks like I went through a, using an old school bad razor or something. But it's important. And we did this group because we have a passion to have impact and help people. And this is probably the most significant way and influence that we could have is helping people get screened. And I told Hollie earlier, like if we can get one person watches this and does the screening and identifies something early that potentially saves their life or increases the quality of their life because they caught it early, we've done our jobs. And that's what impact is all about. So like Hollie said, spread the message. And certainly we're here to help as far as what screenings to get done. And we obviously go in more detail, step by step in our coaching program. But, even if you're not in that, we want to help you and get screened. That's the big drum for the day, the big takeaway.
The big drum, the big takeaway, get screened. If you're just tuning in, make sure you watch the whole thing. It's very important. We want to bring this to you weekly. If you missed the Monday night Magic Pill show, Monday night with Matt, Monday Magic Pill. I keep doing
Magic Pill Monday live.
Monday. Oh, good night. I'll get it right one day. Maybe. We'll see. I run into a wall sober, so I do that too. So make sure you go ahead and watch that show. Let us know what value you got from this. So this is your homework. What value did you get from this? Put it in the chat right now. And then let us know if there's anything else you want us to go into more detail. And let us help you and invite a friend. So that's your homework. Invite a friend. Let us know what value. Thank you for watching the TNL show today with your host, Hollie O'Brien, and co-host, that way, Mr. Matt O'Brien. Thank you for being open and honest and sharing with us. Oh, he's got one more thing to say. Are we not ending? You got one more thing?
No, I just wanted to wrap up like some important news. As you join the group, we've asked for your email. And one of the things we're going to be doing is this show actually goes on to our YouTube channel, which is Triumph Nation TV, at Triumph Nation TV. And that's just another way you can share these episodes with people that maybe not on Facebook. So we're going to start emailing those out just as an added reference for you. Maybe you prefer to watch it on YouTube, but certainly as a way you can share it with other people, whether they're on Facebook or not.
Oh, that's good. I like it. Thank you for interrupting. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we're going to tune out. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you go get your screening done because we want to prevent it.
Right. Amen. Okay. We'll see you guys next week. We love you.
Bye. Bye. See ya.
Care.